Hello and welcome to the Medfield TV Meet the Candidate Special. Elections are on March 29th and it is so important that you get out and vote. In this election, there is one contested race on the ballot, although another race does have a write-in candidate running involved. You can watch our What's on the Ballot special for more details on that and the other members of your community running for election. In today's Meet the Candidate special, we focus in on the important school committee race with three candidates up for election: incumbent Leo Brehm, Lauren Liljegren, and Robert Worth. Today's episode focuses on incumbent candidate for the school committee, Leo Brehm.
The role of the school committee is, policy and budget, essentially, right? But that entails a lot, right? Everything is driven by the budget, and policies drive a lot of how the school is run and conducted, how classes are conducted, curriculum is conducted, and so on. And they have a large role in the hiring of the superintendent, who is essentially the CEO of the school district. So he works directly for the board, and we allow him he legally runs the school district. So there are a lot of governing guidelines from the state of Massachusetts on the role of the school committee. As soon as you're elected or appointed to school committee anywhere in Massachusetts, you're required to go and take the course that kind of outlines what the school committee's role is. It's also to represent the community, right? So where they're representing the community, and more importantly, the 2,600 non-voting young members of our community who attend our schools, right? So it's extremely important that someone on school committee is, familiar with schools and what's trending in schools, and can appropriately support the superintendent and advocate for the schools and the kids in those schools to get what they need, both through programming and ultimately the financial support needed from the town to maintain a great school district. Yeah, I've been really pleased with two big things that I think are that were important to me when running the last time. One was around class sizes and paying attention to those class sizes. I think that previously, because Medfield is considered a high-performing school district, sometimes attention to some of those details slips, and I think it's an important part of what I call the core values of running a school district. In previous school districts that I've worked in, class size was a very important item. It was not uncommon to have to hire new teachers even 1 week before school started because the class sizes creeped up too large, and we would post and hire additional teacher for that grade level to lower the number of the kids in those classrooms. It allows for teachers to more personalize the experience for students, make connections, lasting connections, so that they can learn their learning style and help them digest the content that they're going to be going through. And so we've been able to maintain low class sizes. We've made sure that larger classes have the number of teachers needed, and we've taken over spaces within the schools that we can put another teacher and another class group together of an appropriate size. We do have a space issue, and it is a big factor that's impacting our class sizes. And we do have a couple of large classes that are going through the system, and so you'll see that generally an extra teacher that kind of follows that group. Not always the same teacher, but it gets so large, then it's a larger group, so it's a larger set of teachers that year for the grade level. So particularly, I think this year's fifth grade is much larger. So that's one thing I've been really proud of, is that we've been able to keep a focus on that as a core value. It is something we track throughout the year, and we prepare for it during budget season. So we get predictions about what our class sizes are going to look like for the coming year, and we make sure that we are carrying budgetary numbers to support the number of staff we're going to need or additional space if needed. The other item I was very passionate about was our curriculum. Prior to the pandemic, it was very hard to find any of the curriculum that was being conducted in the classrooms available to parents, or even a guide to understand just about what they're supposed to be tackling in any given school year. Now, being a lifelong educator, I have an idea of what the big ideas are across all subject areas at every grade level. Most parents do not, and it's something that the schools should provide, is an organized idea to parents so that they can help support that learning at home. In my two previous school districts I spent most of my career in, also considered high-performing districts, that curriculum being available was extremely important because we want to enable parents to be able to help support what's happening in school. We refunded the position of a director of curriculum instruction, and she was hired, which is great. And so that person can now lead the evolution of the curriculum within the school district. And that includes everything from appropriate professional development for teachers, the selection and review of curriculum within the district that's being used so that it can be built and improved on. Today, up until the pandemic, when we had to pivot to a very digital structure, the silver lining in that is that they really organized their curriculum in a digital fashion, which makes it much easier to disseminate out to parents in the community. So there is an unprecedented amount of alignment and organization in our curriculum in Medfield right now that I hope we can carry forward in a very meaningful way. So I am excited about that. So that's one thing I guess I am proud of. I feel like I still have more to give. I feel that those core values that I spoke about in my previous election, and I continue to talk about, I think it needs to be established as part of our culture and continue to be supported that way. I feel like all the qualifications I had before, I am even more prepared now than I was at the time to continue with that agenda. I think that the school committee this past year has obviously had to come together even more than ever before to tackle and deal with this pandemic and all the moving parts and the pivoting. And I think that we've maintained that focus on what's really important to our schools. And as we are going to be transitioning back into full school or normal school or almost normal school again, it's going to be important to have that consistency and to maintain a focus on those core values as we have to identify some of the learning loss that may have occurred, some of the social and emotional struggles that we might see in our learners as they transition back to a more traditional method of being in school every day. And I think the kids are missing it, and they are really going to enjoy it. And I think that the consistency from the policy making and the support for the teachers and the administration is important. And I intend to continue to do that. Obviously, it's not something that was part of the introduction course on dealing with a pandemic in schools. I continue to work with school districts nationally in my day job and locally here as well. I continue other school districts as well. And so as the pandemic started to take shape about a year ago now, I was helping in any way I could with districts in Massachusetts, districts nationally, and how they were coping with that, as well as, obviously evaluating what we needed to do here, right? And one of those opportunities I had, I started working with the Department of Education for a little bit over the summer, advising them on their remote learning plans. And it was very helpful to me to see what wasn't working from a bureaucratic perspective from the state as information was trying to come down to school districts, and school committees were then trying to digest it. And I was seeing firsthand at the just how long some of these decisions were taking to be made that were important for us to make decisions locally. And I felt as though that as a school committee, we needed to come together and kind of preempt what those guidelines were going to be and really plan for multiple scenarios, which is what we did. So we immediately started meeting, I believe bi-weekly, to not only get us through the budget hump, because we were in the middle of our budget process. And there was just a suite of unknowns about that budget process, about how we were going to pay for any preparations that we needed to because of COVID. How much of the CARES Act funding were we going to be able to leverage? Quite often, Medfield gets a smaller amount per pupil because we don't have as high a need in the population, according to some factors that are used to distribute stimulus-type funds, like the CARES Act funding. So we had to be able to predict what it is that we were going to receive, and then commence in preparations for all different scenarios. So at the beginning, we were pretty much unclear on what it was going to look like. And as we were waiting for that guidance last summer, it was a real struggle to have to plan for all types of scenarios. The school committee definitely did a phenomenal job working as a team and listening to all aspects of what we could possibly do. Dr. Marsden and the administrative team worked tirelessly all summer long. We probably spoke to them on any weekends, nights, for opinions, feedback, or just relaying information that needed to be relayed. So it was a full-time job for sure, and then some, all through the summer as we were trying to figure out what school was going to look like on September 1st. On top of that, we had to work with the teachers, as well. We had to figure out how to get everyone back and maintain safety, right? So that people felt comfortable in sending our children back. I will say that the work done by school committee and by the administration last summer to prepare our schools to be as safe as possible was I don't think I saw any other school districts do as much as we did here to prepare our schools and make them safe environments. And I think that is evident in the number of people who chose to send their students back versus going 100% remote. We had a rather small number of students who chose to be full remote for whatever reason, but there are other school districts that saw numbers into, let's say for us it was less than 5%, but in other spots it was 40%, 45% of the student body were not going to come back. We're not going to come back at all. That's an indicator of just how prepared we were to make our buildings safe, make sure we had protocols in place for cleaning, mask wearing, and so on, consulting with the Board of Health, following the regulations, and any type of new information released from the CDC or the state. All these items together fed into the decision making that we had to make, and the negotiating that had to be done with the teachers union. And then obviously, when we got into the school year and got started, I was very optimistic about us getting back sooner. Actually, I thought our numbers were very low here in Massachusetts coming out of the summer. So I felt that we were following the rules here, and the numbers were dropping, and I felt like that we were going to be able to go from hybrid to even more in person. And unfortunately, the second wave hit. So the science was right. They did say a second wave was coming. But I'm really pleased on how much because of the protocols in place, unlike many other towns around us that had to quarantine or close buildings for 1 week or 2 weeks because of an outbreak, we have not had that. And we haven't had to do that, not once. So we've had a very consistent learning model where every single week it's been the same. I think the closest we came to doing anything is we suspended sports for 7 days at the advice of the Board of Health because there was some teams that had some outbreaks, and that was the extent of that we've had to break away from any learning model. So we haven't had to do that. I think some of the biggest factors that we chose to focus on being safe and trying to listen to as many people as possible about their concerns has really fed into the decisions and the policies that we've been supporting and the work that Dr. Marsden's been doing. And I believe as a result, we'll probably be one of the first school districts back in Massachusetts in full return. So many others are now targeting April, as we had originally done. And as you may be aware, Dr. Marsden feels like we can start sooner. And after consulting with Board of Health and looking at the latest numbers that we have in town, I feel confident that we can hit an earlier date. So I know that my children will be excited, and I know some children will not be excited, but but I think they would really like to see their friends again and see their teachers. And I know the teachers really miss having a class full of kids. So we're excited about that. Some of the silver lining out of the pandemic is the skill sets that have been built around the use of technology. And as I mentioned around the curriculum, because we've digitized that workflow, which hasn't always been easy to get adoption in schools around that workflow. But now that we've completely adopted it, we had no choice. We can now build on those skill sets to build out and our curriculum, the type of content that we can deliver to students will be more effective. There'll be a lot more opportunities for teachers to differentiate, right? To have different methods of reaching students where they are for learning because of these skill sets. We know now that all of our students have access to this technology, not just locally here, but across the country and across the Commonwealth. And because of that, the collaboration capabilities for teaching and learning will immensely increase. Medfield did a pretty good job on focusing on next generation pedagogy. There was a lot of professional development done. Dr. Marsden supported quite a bit of that prior to me being on the committee. He had a strong focus, and there's a strong culture here for what's called R&D, or research and development, where teachers are encouraged to try new things. And I think that we will continue to support that. And I think it's just going to accelerate the quality of the instruction because of this level setting of skill sets that we were working towards, but we got there in an exponential time because of the pandemic. That coupled with the organized curriculum, I think parents, although forced into it, have a better idea of how their kids are learning and what the curriculum looks like, and will be more than equipped to support the learning at home moving forward. So I think although we've lost some face time, and undoubtedly there's been some learning loss, and of course some social emotional loss, I feel that one of the silver linings that's going to come out of this is that because of those skill sets, and because we've can support the learning process so much more effectively, that we'll see some acceleration in our learning. So I'm really excited about seeing what's happened there. It'll allow us to do more creative programming too. There'll be more opportunities for project-based learning, and there could be different types of program offerings at the high school, perhaps, because of this as well. So I think there's going to be some adds or some good outcomes because of what we've gone through and how we've persevered through it. I think that's probably one of the things I'm really excited about, is to see how the learning community comes out of this, and what great things we take away with it. Well, I'm extremely committed to education, and particularly public education. It is a cornerstone of our democracy. It is what makes America America. I feel like I've supported it wholeheartedly my entire life. I have been very blessed to have a career that I'm extremely passionate about, and I know not everybody gets to say that, but I've been very fortunate to work in a capacity in education that I'm extremely passionate and feel fulfilled by. And because of that, it is, I don't have any other hobbies really. Education and technology is kind of what I do. All my friends that I speak with on a daily basis, that's the same. They're in those roles as well. So I think that people can be rest assured that I have their children's education first in my heart, and I want the best for the Medfield community. Medfield's a great community, and I know that it's been a little bumpy through this pandemic because people are very passionate about it, and I think there's been a lot of loud voices, but I think those loud voices just represent how passionate they are about Medfield as a community and how important the schools are to the fabric of a community. They are, a pillar within the community. The schools are centers of not just learning, but of interaction with community members altogether. So, any voter can rest assured that that's going to be paramount in my decision making, is building the best school district for our kids and for the Medfield community at large. Thank you very much for your support for our schools. I think that, again, one of the things that the community needs to hear is that the schools belong to the entire community, and we do really appreciate those who don't even have kids in the schools continuing to support our schools, because it's really important. So thank you very much, and please go out and vote on March 29th.
Thank you for watching our Meet the Candidates special. We will be following up on each of these candidates in another episode where they'll each be given a chance to respond to each other, and we'll have you, the viewer, write in questions on our Facebook page. You can write in a question on the Meet the Candidates post on the Medfield TV Facebook page, or liking the question you think should be asked. The top 3 liked questions will be asked to all 3 candidates, so questions should be written for all 3 candidates. Questions for an individual candidate will be removed from the post. The deadline for submissions and voting will be on March 8th. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and will submit a question or like a question you think will best serve our community. And I hope you join us on the follow-up episode of Meet the Candidates. Go out and vote on March 29th. Thank you for watching.